So we finished the bottom of page Kufnun Beis. In the middle of explaining why we needed spheres of Toy, why couldn't we get directly to Tikkun? Started saying that the truth is there in Sof on its own, mitzadatzmai, is really big wool. It can be a sphere and cats. And that is why even when in the world of spheres, there's also scholars and big wool. So the last line of Kofnun Beis says, from the perspective of the Ensof, everything what is supposed to be believable. There's no Agbal, this sphere, that sphere, be a sphere and cats. Omnam Hagbala, why? How did it become? How did the limit? How did the spheres, the Ensof, limit themselves to be in a state of Hagbala? Shenasa the Timtzimarish. So this first stage, the idea, the concept of tzimtzum, that the Eibishter contracted Kaviyachol Israel, la'astir Spinasel, to contain and limit and conceal the Bligvul in the Ensof. So the tzimtzum is what created the limitation. We only 10 spheres. But gam lachat tzimtzum einem pres gedam yichud b'mus chachma v'chul. Chachma is just one of the spheres. So he introduces an interesting halukah here. The tzimtzum spoil a certain limit, certain level of agbala limit, but it's still not fully developed spheres. Ein v'gedam yichud. The imiya is shachar tzimtzum. Right, as spheres, low spheres, adding cats. Didn't the spheres and cats that doesn't exist any after the tzimtzum. Tzimtzum limited there. It should be as spheres. And loy oya by a tzimtzum. But if gazel is a sphere v'gedam yichud, the way the spheres are created to the tzimtzum, they're like in some level of not exact definition. Why is the tzimtzum in such a way that the spheres that created the tzimtzum are not totally fully developed, tangible spheres? Spheres that tzimtzum is like Bala Mamash. If the tzimtzum would have been in a state, in a way of Agbala Mamash, total type of limitation. It's interesting. The language uses here. Maybe that has to do with tzimtzum kipshuta. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. But in other words, there is a tzimtzum, but the tzimtzum does not really create a total separation. Because they didn't want there should be a total separation of the Ensof and the elements. That is why it seems in a way the spheres are still not fully developed. So the way the spheres are after the tzimtzum, in Madrig of Ak or the Kadman, they already 10 spheres. There's already a certain state of limitation and Esther, but it's not. It's not a tangible state of spheres. Well, and then then there's the next step. The first step is Adam Kadman. The next step Ba'akudim. I mentioned sometimes I've said we had earlier also in the Sefer. Sometimes Akudim and Ak are interchangeable, but sometimes Chassidus describes them as 2 stages within Ak. There's Ak, which is Mashavagdam with Ak, I guess, and then there's the lower level, which is called Akudim, which is already 10 Eires, but Akudim bekli Ech. Kulam Akudim bekli Ech, Lepnas Mitzias Davu. earlier in the Sefer, I think it was in the first Hamshach, he spoke about how Kudim, the way it, and Akudim, it's not, it's again, about the marshal, the dogma from Keiches HaNefesh, that they're all Akudim B'Kli Echad. There's no separate Keli. It's 10 potential Keiches. It's a bit, I don't know exactly how to describe. There's a subtle difference in the way it is in Ak and the way it is in Akudim. Ak, B'chlal, not Metzias Dover. Akudim, it's already Metzias Dover, but it's B'Kli Echad. There's no real separation.
But these are all after the Simpson, correct?
Yeah, it's all after the Tzimtzum, sure. First there was the Tzimtzum, and he said, so he started saying the Tzimtzum did create, he said clearly in the line 2, while days then Nasdaq bodies as of spheres, as of litation, like Hadas. The Tzimtzum did create a certain level of limitation and number, that's only 10 spheres, and Tzimtzum means that there's already an allowance for a certain level of limitation, not in cats. Still, right after the Tzimtzum and Ak, it's not was the Lashon not Gadam Miyuch. The spheres are in a stage of pure potential. And then in that Guf is the 2 stages. One is an Ak, then in Akudim, it's a step lower. There are the 10 spheres, B'Kli Echad. Omnam Nekudis. So this is the Chiddush of Toyu. Toyu is Nekudis, Shenasa spheres of Metzias Dov. Nekuda, the Elomat Toyu is the first stage in the Shtalshalus. The spheres are already a Metzias Dov. There's a tangible type of expressions. Not only that, when it's take of Metzias Kanoida, the way it is, it's not our Metzias, but take of it's the full strength. Sigas take of Metziasu, Ali de Riba, of Nasayat Kanoida. The way, not only are the spheres of Toyu, in a way that it's a Metzias already, that it's taken from Metzias, because each sphere expresses their atzmi, the essential power of that particular sphere. For example, say Chesed, it's ultimate Chesed, it's the full expression of Chesed. So when you say it's full Chesed, it implies it's dark Chesed, not words. So there's a certain full strength, which is even more than low in the lower levels. Because the Eif Namshach Ben Sof is Leilis from Zagol Gam. Then so Be'etz expresses infinity.
But very, very weak.
What?
The other Sefirot also is in the Torah. There's other Sefirot are also included, but they're very.
No, not talking about included here. We're not talking about whether one included the other. Each sphere is don't make sense. That's what we learned earlier. Now here it's talking about the entire each sphere is fully developed. The Toy is the first stage. Each sphere is in full force, but at the same time, that's a result of it's Gilui Eir. It's not limited in a way that it allows the other sphere. It's limited in a way that it expresses its own. It's very strong. And the rings are a dogma. The Geshem Shebetzimtzum Arishan Shari Agbola spheres resolution. Just like they said on top of the page, that as Tzimtzum Arishan created the limit as a limitation. The same time, it's still full strength that it's not Begedam Yuchad. It's filled with Tosh, not Begedam Yuchad. It's already not Begedam Yuchad. Each sphere is like a limited. Unique. Or you may call Makam big volume. Actually, what they say, let's take it from it. Okay. It brings a dogma from Tzimtzum. As if Tzimtzum we understand. It's not a dogma to explain. It's just to describe, to define. It defines what happens. To the Tzimtzum, we have the Esa spheres, but they're not unique. In Toyu, you have the Esa spheres, but because it's still in a state of the expression of the Ein Sof, so each sphere is in a very strong and the Tachlis HaTekev, full strength, so let's say, doesn't allow the other sphere. That's what itself in Torah. And now it contrasts with what happened in the lower level. It's part of Einzer based in Yonim. The level of Partsuf, which is the lower level, Einzer based in Yonim, you don't have bottom. There's no Ribe Eir there itself because it's more limited, and also Lepnas taking from Metzias. There's not taking from Metzias in the sphere. Each sphere is more weaker. The way the Amshach inside itself must be this way, but they say Nasa Patsuf and this person tells double called sphere, but it was Gadamiyuch. Because the Patsuf were created in a way that first they were in a state of Nekuda, that each sphere is full in a very strong, unique expression. This is why that's the way it is in Toyos. So when it comes to the later stage in Tikkun, it maintains that strength. Because if the creation of the Patsuf of the sphere is not Tzilus, would be directly with that Toya in the middle, that intermediate Toya, it's like this thing some autumn lawyers have us and so forth. The problem would have been then that the yachas of the air and stuff to the spheres would be in a tzimtzum otzim, would be a very strong, powerful break. Tzimtzum would be there would be no connection of the air and stuff with the elements. We can't loyal and the ultimate result would have been that atmosphere itself would not reach the elements in a way that they can feel the strength of that. The ultimate purpose of the Eibishter wants is that in the element Tikkun and element Patsufim should be Amshachas Atzmos. That's why we needed that intermediary of Toya. Spheres that Toya, so that's why the spheres of Toya, there was the Atzmi. Like the marshal of Kechas and Elamim, the person expresses Kechas and Elamim, so his neshama is fully expressed in each Kaya. But the Toya, by the way, it is in Toya, the Gilei Atzmi is not Kafia Kavanah. It's not what the Eibishter really wanted to achieve, because in Elam Toya, Lo establishes the Kelim. There's no establishment of Kelim Ma'atim, and then there was Shviras Kelim. So in the way of Toyo, they had the mile that Gilei Kechas Atzmi, but they didn't reach the Kelim. But Sufin, that Sivlos, from the Smir Toyo, Chavis HaKav, and some Shachas Atzmi. Machash Manim Shanas Gav, and Sat Toyo, Miskav, and Smir, and Kelim, the Tik. So that is the mile, that is the reason why we need the Toyo. As an intermediary, it makes sure that the element Tikkun, that in the world of Patsufim, we have the Emshachas of El Atzmi. So okay, he started the thing in page Kufnun Beis. He said like this: in the Zehoya Bishvil Beis Inyan Shachar Shadei. The reason why we need Toyos and intermediate is two reasons. He said, number one, Shagabal of Haggadah. The Toyo made that Kabbalah in the spheres, and the second, the more important point is what you just finished saying. The Toyo Atzmi can only go through Toyo. It's saying in that basis, that Toyo, Liya is Amshachas Atzmi V'Elements. The Amshachas Atzmi V'Elements, that only happens through Toyo. And it brings a raya though. And if there would have been a direct Amshachas Atzmi to the element Tikkun, it's then I needed a tzimtzum otzim. There've been like a leap, and the elements wouldn't be able to be makabel. Because there was first the stage of Toyu, that's why later in Tikkun the elements couldn't be makabel. There was atzim. Things are I mean, a dogma. Like it says. That was the question. How is it possible if if the kelim of toy will shvir the kelim, because the B'tayot Atzmim, so it's possible later on the kelim of tikkun could be mekabel of toy, and the answer is. So what does Chassidus answer that question? Which goes to Beitz Chaim in a cup. Similar, it says in Beitz Chaim when you get the cup. What does it say when you get the cup? That first, there was the loya makam lamid silence. First, the variance of his male lemon. Then the Eivishter made it simple and created the cup, and then to the cup, there itself is nimshach lemons. That's Rakasha. How can the elements be a kelim now? You just said before, loya makam lamid silence. How is it possible that after the elements created, so to the kav, it could contain the elements of sharif netzimtzum. That's the question that Chaim answers. So Chaim answers, after it can't create l'chatchila kelim because that it doesn't allow, but after you create the kelim, then that after you create a level of the kelim could handle, and the kelim handled that, then they can also handle the oil, which originally they couldn't be handled. Well, there.
I'm sorry, I missed the point. So he's saying that the before wasn't able to have the kelim, but now after the Simpson it could have kelim because of what?
After the kelim are created, eventually the kelim could be makabel the subject netzim. They can't create the kelim. Cannot create the kelim directly from there itself because the kelim will be bought. After there's a tzimtzum and create the kelim, then at the later stage, the kelim could become kelim to oil and stuff. After they're already created, can't create them lechatchila, but after they're created, they could eventually become kelim to their substance not tzimtzum.
Well, the question is if there was no. I guess it's a side question, not necessarily related to the top, but once there was a tzimtzum, how the kelim could be created because there was no or bichlal.
There's what do you mean? It's tzimtzum and then there's the kav. There's a kav which creates the kelim. Kav kotzer. Kav itself.
The kav created the kelim. Okay.
Yeah. Then he said. So eventually, to the kav creates the kelim, and then eventually the sof reaches the kelim. So l'chatchila the sof. The kelim cannot be created from the sof because the sof is applicable. But after they're created, then later, eventually, the kelim become kelim the sof. Well, there's a dogma. What's the dogma? When the teacher teaches the students, so he can't really. If the teacher will teach the student the idea, the way he understands it, the way he sees it, the students will be bought. They won't be able to handle. So the teacher teaches it to him in a more measured way, and eventually, at a point, that eventually the Talmud, the student gets the gets that part of the teacher, which is above what he originally was able to get. So in order for the teacher to student to be able to relate to the teacher, to understand the teacher has to be with something what he's telling you. He gives it to them in a very limited and concealed measure. But eventually, after the kelim is darker, and then eventually he gets that part of the das harav that originally he couldn't get. Similarly, here in the kelim cannot be created from there himself. But after the symptom and the creation of kelim, eventually the kelim could be kelim to their himself. That's what it says in other places, the gabi yachas of the kelim to their himself. The tikkun is a similar concept can be applied in our case, tikkun. The first the tikkun can only be in a way of miyoter. Then eventually, then the kelim get the miyoter, and the kelim are created. Eventually, eventually, the kelim of tikkun can be makabel There's of Toy, when Nishlam is a Kavana, Shiri Be'ergam is after the king. And that fulfills the ultimate purpose of creation, of Hishtachlis, that there should be a Ribe in Cain. Calls there. Kasha, but feel like, well, I'm trying to say, that's the other is how I'm taking them trying to do that and so forth. So this explains the question we had at the beginning of the previous page, page base. Why did we need Toy Bichlal? The Amos are going to create a tikkun directly. He says the tikkun directly, there'll be no Ratzmi. Tikkun on its own is not, no, there's no Ratzmi. The spheres would not maintain their direct connection to the Ratzmi. So we have to immediately it seems some otzim. So in order to that Elam Tikkun should eventually get the Ratzmi, there needs to be created Elam Toy, which is an intermediary stage where there is a Ratzmi in the Kudus, and then there is Tikkun, and then the Tikkun becomes a Keli of Toy. And he adds another point, not only that, you can through that first stage of the Kelim the Tikkun receive the Eretz Atzim the Toyu, then they can come to even a higher stage, they can reach the Madrega, which is even above Toyu. So that answers another question. The answer to yes earlier. What do we need Bechlal? It says the Sheresh Adam higher than the Tzach. So why do we need the whole Tzach? So that was the whole point. That in order for us to reach the Atzmi, the Adam, the Sheresh Adam Shalamayim, Sheresh Atikim Shalamayim, the Sheresh Adam Shalamayim, that's has to be the intermediary of the areas of Torah. What is the process? How does Tikkun Taka get the Torah? It doesn't happen automatically. That can't. This is the result of our void of birur, the way we elevate the world. Should Torah on its own, should be able to Tikkun. We said all along. The truth is that it's not. We just find a dogma from Kohen Shadai to the Rabbi, but you really can't compare it to Kohen. Why? The Kohen is a Tikkun in the level of Tikkun within Tikkun itself. We have Kohen Shadai to the Rabbi. The Shamachitzim is only not Nimis. In the world of Tikkun, that all levels are interconnected, so the Rav is talking about to the Talmid, the Chitzonius, but because in Tikkun everything is connected, within the Chitzonius there's the Pnimius. So that's why from the Chitzonius and come to the Pnimius. Kol Madach the Rav. Shari b'Tikkun. The reason in the world of Tikkun we can have because the Pnimis of Chitzonius within Tikkun are in the same realm. So really, the Pnimis is contained within the Chitzonius in a concealed way, but it's there. I'll tell you the Tikkun happens Abdallah Serach Letness Ribumiyut. It's not like Ribumiyut, it's the same level, but one is more, one is less. How can we reach the Torah to Tikkun? So the answer is that this comes to Birur, that we elevate and refine the nitzutzas that fell from the Shviras HaKelim. The fact that the Kelim of Torah were broken is also part of the process. That creates the nitzutza, is the eres, the Zohar that are planted within Tikkun. The fact that it can be Metzias Hayesh, the fact that in the Elam Tikkun we reach a stage that there's Metzias Hayesh, there's a separate being, which is really. It's in our world, in the lowest level of Tikkun, to the Yeshvi. That's a result of Shviras HaKelim. That's a result of breaking the vessels. The vessels are broken, so that allows. It's like a break means you separate, you become something different. So that becomes Yesh. Kanoida the Asoma Mos and Askel the Tikkun. So the Asoma Mos Nivoil, but Asoma Mos come from the Esas fields. So Esas fields, which which are the 10 spheres of Tikkun, that cannot create yesh mamash, cannot create the physical world, which is there's a strong feeling of independence. In order to create the type of existence that we exist, which is a yesh nifrad, for that we must have the shviras hakelim. There be room in the shviras hakelim in the Torah. There's a yesh mamash the Torah. Further, shviras hakelim creates our the existence of the Mitzvah Chai of our separate world, and then to the Biurim we inherit the earth of Torah that we're in Torah, which is above Tikkun. The Torah and after, okay, just to be the same, in a way, the same point. To the Rosh the Torah, first we reach the earth axiom of Torah, we inherit that. Like I said yesterday, the concept of inheritance here is because Vayoma is the 7 Melach and the Shvir is something that when the Meirish dies, the Yerush is from the Meirish is property. It's obviously a marshal. So the same thing in that case, the Torah is Yerush that you can't think. And I'm saying eventually we get even higher in a state which is above Tikkun, which is above Torah. That's why he goes back to what we said yesterday. They shall some is out the is a place because the Neshama soul reach a state which is above Torah. So there's no need for Achil is Birur. But when they reach eventually after the Avodas Habirurim, you reach the stage of the Tikkun from Ma'alim Torah, so there's no need for there's no need for Birurim. No, but at the same time, Zer the Achil Dash. We mentioned a few times in this line that the point is that he can't jump, he can't skip stages. You can't say, I'll go directly to the higher stage. How do we reach that stage of Ein Be'achila? It's a result of the Avodah Habirurim now. We are busy with. Now, that brings us to the next stage of Ein Bechel Shtir. You can jump right away to that stage of Ein Bechel Shtir. And that's Murumas in another point. So we see this in these two stages. That first you have Achil Shtir, and only that brings the level of Ein Bechel Shtir. Can't say I'll go directly to Ein Bechel Shtir. The way it works is that you go. It's a process. So we see this in Yom Kippur. I mentioned earlier that Yom Kippur is like Elamaba Ein Bechel Shtir, but Yom Kippur is the Gil of the Madrik of Neshama, which is above Toyu. But Erev Yom Kippur is a mitzvah to eat. In order to reach which is Maramis, which that's not more than Maramis, it expresses that aspect of the Avodah. In order to reach Ein Bechel, in order to reach the Madrik of Tikkun, above Toyu, it has to be a lot of biurim before that. That's why Erev Kippur mitzvah la'arved b'chil shtir. To reach the level of Ein Bechel Shtir, that has to be the introduction. The introduction, the word, the achana, preparation of avodah to achil shtir through biurim.
Because that makes Kelly, correct? I mean, the same way that's like a tikkun.
Okay, yeah.
No, but I'm saying it doesn't fit exactly the nimshal, you know, because that is preparation. No?
It doesn't exactly fit the nimshal. No. The keli part is a previous stage. The keli is before that. There's the keli, and then there's the biur keli. There's a few stages. First we create the kli, and then you mavar the kli. There's two stages here. There is the child, the student understands a lower level, but then he works on it. He works hard. So two stages: there's the creation of the keli, and then there's the biur of the keli. So that's how the marshal fits. It's not exactly the keli. The keli is a keli, but then the keli needs to be refined in a way that eventually you reach the level that it becomes, you reach above.
So you're saying Achila Shtia Be'erev Yom Kippur is like a birur.
Of course, Achila Shtia is the birur. It's not a keli, it's the birur. Achila is birur. Just like in regular food, whatever we eat, we take, even in a very physical sense. What does food mean? You take a piece of food, you eat it. Then there's a digestion. But digestion is birur. When it separates, takes the good part and it goes into the bloodstream, and the bad part goes out. That's called birur. You find it and you separate the good for the bad. That's Achila is the perfect marshal and in a birur. And then, but earlier in a more elevated state, remember he said actually no, it's going to be soon. I mixed up. Soon is going to talk about in birurim, the two levels. Birur means that you take the object of birur and you elevate, you separate the positive from the negative. So the negative you push away, the positive you elevate. That's what Achila is. So this concept we just said, that the Achila is really a preparation to the stage of L'mayla Ma'achila, Ein Ba'achila. So we find that in the Eliyahu. It says Eliyahu, we story in Malachim Beis that Eliyahu ate Vayela B'koyach Achila Hi 40 Yom ו40 Layla. So so you can say that like it's almost like two opposites. What is the koyach achila? A person cannot live without food for 40 days and 40 nights. So basically, what happens is that you reach the state, but there is no need for food. It's above achila. But at the same time, it says the koyach achila. The fact that you reach the stage where he doesn't need food was a result of the first achila. So we see in Eliyahu this same two stages that we reach in Kippur. Ein Ba'achila as a result of Achila in Kippur. Einer Shalidei Birurim to the Achila, which is Birurim again. Not talking about the food is just an illustration. Food means Achila means Birurim. So do the Birurim of the Eliyahu and Novi before these 40 days. Days there. He reached the stage, which is above Birurim because he was able to live without eating, which means he was living in a stage which was above Achila. So in Eliyahu, we see both stages. But Moshe, he said, so in Moshe, we only see the second part. He doesn't talk over there. Moshe doesn't say, he just, Moshe, well, Moshe went to the mountain for 40 days, 40 nights without food. There's no need for food because he reached the Madrega of Ein Ba'achila Shtia. Okay, now we're going back to our Zeo, the Adam that taken Tzachlias. I mean, what's a little funny? Makabel Chayes me that Tzach, Adam that needs to be Makabel Chayes and that Tzach, Shavin Navet HaBerurim, but they live when it says the Toyah, they say, Yom Shasham Niti. The sort of the tikkun in general are avoided in general. The tikkun is that we have to reach. We have to chayes from the tzach. The first stage is that we eat the real food. The chayes. We get our chayes from them to make chayes from toyu. The first stage is we get the toyu. They say get from a kohen, and then eventually we get to the real place, the higher place, which is Nichel Fond of Chai Ve'etzem Shasham. Brings the positive but earlier. For 2 days gives us Izmachayenu. So that sounds like you need some other outside force to give you life, which is a remez on the concept of Achila, of Birurim, of Chayes and Datzach. But then the Yom HaShlishi, Kimene v'nichel u'fonav, the Yom HaShlishi, eventually, which is the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, L'asig Lova, you don't need Birurim. Nichel u'fonav, you can live on our own from the Chai Be'etzem. We do it because we have Sherish and Vera Amiti of Tikkun, It's above Torah. It doesn't need the Elas Torah. So he finished talking about all this in a very shorter way, but now he's taking us back into the more practical world, because he wants to come back to the mind. The mind started Rosh Hashanah, by that much Rosh Hashanah. Talks about the Inyan from Dor. He's going to explain this entire discussion so till now how it manifests itself in the real life. In the Ikar Biurim, Finas Noiga, Amor Tevera. Where's the Aveda Biurim? So when you learn Tanya Perek Zayin, you see Tanya explains that our Aveda life is we take the Adeg of Noiga, which is more Tevera. Noiga is a mixture of good and evil, which means a likus and the opposite. At that point is elaborated in the Maimah Rosh Hamatas Alter Rebbe Bir on Pos Rosh Hamatas. So what does it say? So in other words, in our day-to-day life, we live in a world of the neutral world, which has a combination of both good and evil. The fact that we live in a world of Noiga, where which is a mixture of good and evil, we see that in our experience. When a person eats, so two opposite things happen. The Rasha b'mayful, the evil part of the food, which means the part of the food which is about your ego, to give you pleasure, to fulfill it taiva, that's magasha, that makes you more crude, the ra. But the opposite side of the spectrum, the good part, we just said it's mixed good and bad. The good part of the naiga is that adds, when a person eats, so that part, the part of the food that's good, which means that gives you energy to do Avodas Hashem. So the food, like I mentioned, it uses food as the best illustration of our human experience. It's really, and not only in food, but food it's illustrated very thoroughly. So you have the two parts, the negative and the positive, the Tov and Ra. So what's Biur? In a Biur, what does it mean, Biur? When a person eats, how is he mevar the good from the bad? So the Gashmi, the Michael Gash, Taino Gashmi, gives him pleasure, physical pleasure, which means it strengthens its ego, it strengthens its own separate existence. But that's the negative side. But there's also the potential, like we said, so what is the beer? What does beer mean? Beer is separate. Beer is Lashon Breir. It's like a choice. What exactly you do when you separate them? That the person, when he eats, he concentrates not on the physical pleasure that he gets it, but the concept and the fact that from this food he can get koyach to serve the Eibush. So this is generally the concept of Avodas HaBirur. Omnam yesh Beizei Fanim B'Birur. But in Birur Gufa, the two stages, two levels. Aleph, what we just said, the simple level of Birur is B'chinas Tchiyah, that you push away the evil. That the person, when he eats, avoids the pleasure of the Meichel. It says, Rabbeinu HaKodesh, that when he died, he said, everything was Hashem Shemayim. It didn't, the physical pleasure didn't affect him. It didn't. So that's when he eat Bichlal. So in similar, like I said, in every physical experience, that you don't concentrate on the and the pleasure, but on the Shem Shemayim. Then he says another thing. It's interesting, like I mentioned that time, that usually Chassidus doesn't use the language of Siguf. It's what we call iskafi. Not only is it that when you eat the meal, you concentrate on the Lashma Shamayim, not on the pleasure, but you actually iskafi, it's Sigufim. You don't need the flats. I don't know exactly. I mentioned that there's a famous word the Rebbe told that in iskafi in our day and age means the opposite. You should eat whatever's on your plate. You should not be picky. Because in a way, that's also iskafi. It means it's not like I like this part, I don't like that part, whatever you be given to eat. So that's also way iskafi. But the original concept of iskafi was, remember, the way it was joked, this guy, they say he was fed from the iskafi of other people because they didn't finish their meal of iskafi and he ate it up. So it's the simple, the more simple way of understanding iskafi means that you don't finish your meal. Okay, it's a very crude illustration of the concept. The idea is that you stay away from certain pleasures that you don't need. So that's in a very stark manner. It's called segufi. The person refrains from eating what he doesn't need to. Not just eating. Again, like I said, food is really a muscle. In other words, he stays away from the extra pleasures he doesn't need. So this is that's called biur. Biur means he stays away from it. He's bar. He chooses to go on a gdush. But then there's a higher level of biur. A base, kamaya chila the Shabbos. Chila the Shabbos is a unique type of biur. Shagam atayna gagash mishal and nega misal. This is a higher level of biur. Not the level of biur that you separate the good from the bad, and the bad is pushed away, and the good is being elevated. This higher level of biur of Shabbat, that everything is elevated, even the achila gashmi, even the gishmak you have in the chont, that itself is a mitzvah. That itself is elevated to Kedush. That's a higher level of biur. Then he now in the next few lines, he goes back to this language used in the beginning of the Maimah. It writes very cryptically, b'kitzur. So then now he says one line: "Smile doichem ekvos the Abba v'im nekareves tafsanim de'im." These two levels of these two stages in biur.
Just the opposite.
What?
Just the opposite. The Abba, the Ima. The Ima, the Abba.
I'm sorry. Smile doichem ekvos the Ema v'im nekareves tafsanim de'Abba. So these two stages of these two types of biur, really, one is from bina. Gvur is the Ema. Gvur means judgment. That's tchiyah, refraining from something, pushing it away. So that's gvur. That comes from bina, from the law of Madrigan Moichin, which is bina. Then there's chasod, Yamin Mekareves, the higher level, like we said, Nachila the Shabbos, that's like Yamin Mekareves, you bring things closer to you, Mekarev, elevated, that's chasadim dab. That comes from the madrig of chesed dab. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Sunday. All right, Shkola.
Yeah, Shabbos.